Hey, good evening, everybody. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista, as always. This is a space for real conversations about creativity, purpose, and perseverance. We interview great artists who share what it truly takes to. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, it's really, really great to be here, everybody. I thought I was going to read it really fast, but this thing that I wrote here that I read in the in the mornings, I have one that I read. I read it word for word, and then at night when we're doing our show, it's always a little different because sometimes we don't have a guest, and sometimes
Right.
we have a topic that maybe we don't know. Like maybe today we're going to be talking about mayonnaise. I don't know, and it's just one of those things where. But the one thing that I do say, if you're building something meaningful, you're in the right place because we like to encourage people who are artists creating special things. As a matter of fact, George and I just got off of a conversation before we went live about, gosh, I don't mean to sound like an old
Old man.
fart that is just like complaining about these kids and their music. I'm sure that there must have been that. But here's the difference between what when I say it and people that were saying it in the past.
Mm,
So swing music, right? I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Now I know when Elvis came and Sinatra and Tommy Dorsey and all those Benny Goodman, all those types of bands. When the Beatles showed up and or Elvis showed up first, and then Chuck Berry and all these artists, and then the Beatles finally came in. I know that a lot of the people that love this swing music were complaining about that music.
You're right.
And then when we
Yep.
go into the 70s, there were a lot of people that were in the 70s complaining about the new music that's in the 70s because they
Hmm.
love the Beatles.
Right.
And then, and it keeps going and going and going until today. But the only difference from today is that I still love swing music. I
Hmm.
mean, Buddy Rich, we talk about Buddy
Yeah.
Rich all the time. We talk about Sinatra,
Yeah.
for me, the greatest singer ever. So I listen to Sinatra. I was listening to Sinatra the other day with my kids.
Nice.
So, um, and then the Beatles, I love the Beatles. I love Elvis Presley. In the 70s, I love Led Zeppelin. I love Rush, all the Who, the Stones. And then the 80s, we had the Van Halens and we had all the pop stuff of Hall and Oates. And every one of those generations, I still love. And today, some of the people, the artists that I've met and some of the ones that I've seen, I love as well. But we were talking about the fact that there hasn't been this thing that is just epic. I mentioned Bruno Mars to George because I think Bruno Mars is probably the closest, in my opinion. These are four artists that that I think pretty much are the whole music industry is on their shoulders. This is probably gonna people are gonna completely disagree with me on this. One, Bruno Mars.
Hmm.
Two, John Mayer
Mm,
because of the pop sensibility of the blues, and he's a great musician.
right.
Three, to keep the blues alive, Joe Bonamassa. Not to
Mm,
mention Joe, but all the people that are around him, all the guys that he takes on tour with him, Joe
right.
Bonamassa. And number five is Derek Trucks.
Oh,
Derek Trucks. These four are. Oh, and I'll give you another one. Adele.
yes.
Adele to me
Yes.
is
Yes.
incredible.
Yes.
She's got amazing vocals, soul, sensibility. I mean, just everything is very unique about all these artists. Very, very unique, and they're young still. They still have a good 30 years to go of making music,
Right.
and that to me is exciting when it comes to and I'm sure there's others.
Hmm.
I like Lady Gaga. I think Lady Gaga is very talented.
Yep.
Um, I think there's what's the other one? Anyway, I can't remember, but there's others like that, that I do have that I do like. But what I'm saying is that these artists are keeping a specific genre alive.
Right.
They're not necessarily creating what was done by the Who, Led Zeppelin, the epic albums, Pink Floyd, the huge albums, Rush with 2112. We were just talking about that. We're not seeing that type of thing. We're seeing songs, 3
Yeah.
minutes, 3.5 minute songs, well crafted, very well produced, sung by these artists.
Mhm.
If there's anyone, Joe Bonamassa does whatever he wants to do. He
Right.
wants his own thing. He doesn't have a record label. He is his record label. So he's got a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedoms, and he does whatever he wants to do. As a matter of fact, I'm really on this right now. As a matter of fact, recently, BB King turned 100, right?
Mhm.
He passed away a few years ago, but it was his 100th birthday. And Joe Bonamassa called up a few people. I think he called up somebody from the family, and he said, "Hey, BB's 100th is coming up. What are we doing? And is anybody?" He thought that he was going to get invited to a 100th birthday of BB King.
Right.
Nobody was doing anything.
Wow.
So Joe was like, "All right, I'll do it." So he called up all his. It's a new album that just came out. It's got all these artists doing BB King songs.
Wow.
And it's incredible. I've heard it, and it's unbelievable. And he just did it. Why? Because he can do it.
Sure.
That kind of flexibility and passion and willingness to take a risk. I mean, is he going to make money off of a BB King tribute record? I don't know. He'll
Right.
make some money from it, but it's not. He's got more Grammys nominations than anybody in the blues, but so he doesn't necessarily need anything. But my whole take on this is like, where are the Genesis?
Right.
Where are these epic bands that just create these orchestral pieces that just kind of transport us to where we're kind of like, we don't know where it's going, and it takes you to a journey.
Yeah.
The pop songs of today kind of take you to where you've already been,
Right.
and it just kind of shows you around again. Okay, you've seen this melody line before, right? Good. Okay, have you seen this chorus before? Yeah, you've seen this word, right? You've seen this before, this song about this. Yeah, that's what this is about. Welcome in, and people like it, and it's interesting. But with with these other guys, you have no idea where you're going, and I miss
Right.
that, and that's what makes me sad.
Yeah, it is kind of sad also because when you mention those groups, look at the Who, you look at Rush, you look at Sting, you look at Floyd, these folks, right? They all, just like you said, they had this ability to think of the entire album as the story.
Yep.
Right? The entire album. It was a concept album.
Structural
It was
thing.
it was a whole thing. It was like a play. They literally wrote a play from beginning to end. Some of them were plays, Tommy and all this, right? They had, but you look at 10 Summoners Tales. If you look at that whole entire album, it strings together beautiful stories, right? That kind of are all in one. Now it's about the one song, massively produced, put it out there, get as many streams as possible on that song. And
it disappears.
and then it disappears. And then the album, well, if people like the album, fine. If not, toss it.
Not even an album.
It's the focus is on the 3-minute song. Done.
Now, to play devil's advocate, I mean, I remember someone talking about back in the day, singles were the key. Everybody, when you had an album, what's going to be the single? What's the single? Everybody needed to have a single. You know what I mean? The problem is that there was an album.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Today, it's like people will have a single without an album, and then it'll take them a while to put an EP together. And, I think flexibility within the creative world in their own creative space has been diminished by the fact that the streaming platforms are very difficult to make any kind of income on. Whereas in the old days, there was a system that was there.
Right.
And if the A&R guy or the record producer or whoever signed the artist, like a Clive Davis, heard something clever or heard something in that, they would put them in the studio and let them kind of stew, and develop the thing because they heard it in there.
Exactly.
It was like that with Whitney when he heard Whitney, 16 years old.
Yeah.
He knew she wasn't ready, but he knew that there was something there that had to be developed, and they did. And that went with a lot of artists. A lot of artists had that opportunity to be able to do that. And I think that's part of where right now what we're missing is giving them the space. giving them the space. It's such a pressure. Yeah, we gotta get the single. We gotta get this out. I need studio time. I need more studio time. I gotta pay for studio time. Then they record all these songs, and then these songs get out there, but the shelf life is so small. If it doesn't go viral, if it doesn't hit in some way, then it's gone. And you start thinking to yourself, like even when I was with the record label, they'll be like, well, we got to get in the studio again because we put all that stuff out. And I'm thinking, nobody's heard that stuff.
Right.
Your old stuff that you call old, no one has heard it.
That's right.
You know what? You got 1,000 streams. That means that there's 300 million people that have not heard your music yet. And that's just in America, right? We have a whole world that we can actually promote to. So, I wish artists would realize that whenever they put out a single, that is part of the album.
Right.
So when you're writing, write with the idea that it's going into an album. So if you're putting out 10 singles and you put out 10 singles, let's say 10 singles in 2 years, right? None of them hit big, but you take those 10 singles and you put them into an album and you release it as an album and you have another thing and you do a CD, an album release party. And, you have to kind of create something that's a little bit more unique, I mean, we just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I just to kind of, just piggyback a little bit on that. I think, and what you said before was spot on. I think the entire, well, if you look at when I go back and I say all the industries, right? I go to music, I go to film, I go to health, I can even go to sports. I can even go to just name the industry out there. Today, it's about mitigating risk. It's about not risking anything. Okay.
Nothing.
Back in again, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, you went out there and you risked it all. Okay. Nirvana was a risk. Right. And, you just threw it out there and see what the hell happened. Today, no, you cannot put your neck out for anything in any of these categories. Again, even, you could even go to sports now, right? Back in the days when Babe Ruth played, Don Mattingly played, all these guys, you played hurt. You went out, you played every.
True. You see these guys. I mean, remember Kirk Gibson?
Kirk Gibson limping, hitting the home run and limping around the bases, right?
That would not happen today.
No, I mean, Lou Gehrig,
they would lose.
Lou Gehrig played with broken bones, okay, and you played every game, right? Michael Jordan would play every freaking game, right? Nowadays they have the whole concept.
Bent finger, and my finger. So
now in sports, the rest days are built into the season because why? You're mitigating the risk. You don't want this guy because there's a possibility he could be hurt, right? And the whole point of him is not to play the season, right? No. They're going to play the season. The whole point of it is to get, the whole point is the money, and the whole point is to get to the end.
End.
And to be at the end healthy. Right. That's the sports thing. But again, you could look at it in every industry. They want to mitigate that risk.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like somewhere along the line, and it has to do with building something that's too big that you have to do that. It's what happened with Hollywood, right?
Right.
Hollywood is so massive that their films have to make $500 million for it to be profitable because they spent 200 million and it's so massively big, and this is where when independent films started coming in, and now independent films are pretty pricey as well. Just to shoot. So now there's independent film. There's like a different level of filmmaker now where it's completely all in-house,
Right.
And now when they realize, oh, well, you know what, this film actually just got nominated for an Academy Award, and they only spent not even $1 million on this, now they're realizing, oh, you know what, it's probably just story. Maybe we just need better stories, and they let it go too big. Same thing with the record labels.
Right.
They're too big. I mean, you get a guy, you sign an artist, you give them $250,000 signing bonus. If it's a band, you give them each that. Yep. Now, do they get that money? No, they owe that to the record. Then they record the record. Who's paying for the record? They are. So they just put that on their bill. Oh, we got a tour. Oh, we want a tour bus. All right, yeah, we get you a tour bus. Goes on the bill. Everything goes on the bill. Everything goes on the bill. Next thing you know, they're down $2 million, and their record does nothing. They put their record out, and it didn't do anything. Now they're touring for $2 million to try to pay back $2 million for another 10 years. It could be years. because their contracts are so poor. So
right.
we've talked about this in the past before, but my point I'm bringing it up is that it's so big, nobody can risk, taking that, doing that, because of the fact that they can't afford to lose anything,
That's right.
because they have to try to help support their own artists, their other artists. They have to pay we talked about when we were with one of our records that we had when I went to Sony Music to go get the artwork.
Right.
Right. So I get off on the 17th floor by accident, and in the 17th floor, empty.
Right.
Nobody on the 17th floor. And I looked out, it was dark and just a bunch, like a sea of cubicles, completely empty. And I stopped the door when it was closing, and there was a guy there. I think he was hiding he didn't want to work. So he was standing there with a mop. I'm like, who the hell are you mopping, bro? There's nobody up here. But he had like his cleaning supplies. So I said to him, I'll say, what's on this floor? And he's like, nothing. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He goes, and there's 5 more floors just like this.
Wow.
This was Madison Avenue, New York City, Sony Music.
Unbelievable.
There was six floors. He said, no, I didn't see them. So, but just that one, they can, because, streaming and all that stuff, just, it took them by surprise.
Yeah.
And they were just way too big.
Yeah.
They can't afford to pay those guys, And so anyway, that to me is where the problem lied. It's like there's no sense in trying to make sense of it, other than that.
Right.
That is what occurred. It's way too much money put into the system, and now every single record and every single opportunity is what it is. Can you open that door? There's somebody out there.
FBI.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that's how I think.
No, I agree. I think that's spot on that.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today? Oh yeah, that's right. We're talking about how wonderful the world is.
Speaking of wonderful world.
We like to completely trash though. Well, no, I mean, I think part of what we're talking about is how wonderful the world is because of all those bands that we mentioned. I mean, thank God we have them. Right. Thank God that we have these bands that we can go back to, and maybe some of these bands, and a lot of artists are influenced obviously by these old bands as well. It's just, again, their hands are tied as far as how much risk. American Idol is a perfect example. Every singer that comes out of American Idol, people look at it and go, wow, what a great voice. Yes. Great voice. Unique voice? No,
right.
Not a unique voice. Just a great voice in the sense that they have the ability to sing. They have the strength to sing. They have the inflections to sing, but are creative? No. We think of like the singers that we think that we love and we think, how many of them would have survived American Idol? Now this conversation has been had. Yes. But let's name some names. Roger Daltrey.
Right.
Robert Plant. I don't know.
Bob Dylan.
Never.
Never.
Bruce Springsteen. No way.
No way. Nope.
You look at even Madonna.
Right.
Madonna didn't have a great voice. She wasn't a great voice.
Joe Cocker.
You're just not gonna go. I mean, Van Morrison.
That's right, Van Morrison.
Van Morrison. The Stones, Mick Jagger.
Oh my God, yes.
None of these guys would survive if we had. And this is what makes me, because those guys, that is out there somewhere.
Right.
They're still out there. There are these types of character singers and guys out there that sing with that type of direct communication. Maybe not the vocal strength, but with the communication, because that's what Bob Dylan had.
That's right.
Bob Dylan was not a singer. He was a communicator. He was a poet. He was he was someone that just had the audacity to say these things during a time when the country was. I'll give you another one, is Pete Seeger, even before Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
With the Weavers. I mean, let's go before even Pete Seeger, when he was with the Weavers. Come on. I mean, the Weavers were actually a really good group with harmony.
Right.
But, they were, when they got into the political stuff, that's not a thing right now.
Right.
And I think we're losing so much of whatever is out there. Even guys that we with voices that we really like Sting. Sting has a very all these singers that I just mentioned, if they sang a cappella happy birthday, we don't know who they are.
True.
Now that's power,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Right?
Mhm.
That's power.
Right.
Every single one of them. If they just sang happy birthday, we'd know exactly who that singer is.
Yes.
I can't really give you names right now that would sing something that I know 100% is them. Even as I mentioned Bruno Mars, which I love and I think he's fantastic. I don't know if I would be fooled. I kind of know his voice and stuff. I might be like, yeah, I think that's Bruno Mars, but there are other guys that sing like that as well.
True.
The
I noticed
Weeknd,
that. I've
yeah,
noticed that. Yeah.
The Weeknd,
Mhm.
who sounds very much like Michael Jackson.
Right.
I would think to myself, is that Michael Jackson? No, it's not. It's the Weeknd. You know what I mean? And who else? I can't think of any. Taylor Swift has got a nice voice. I don't think she's gonna sing and I'm gonna be like, oh, that's definitely Taylor. Maybe,
Right.
somebody who listens to Taylor Swift a lot, maybe,
Mhm. Mhm.
but again, Billy Joel is another one, Elton John is another one, James Taylor is another one.
Yes.
These are all artists. Carole King.
Oh yeah.
What's not Carole King,
Carly Simon.
Carly Simon. I love Carly Simon. Very,
Mhm.
very unique voice.
Yep.
Cher. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah. Cher had a very unique voice.
unique voice from
Yes.
day one.
Yep.
And it's that uniqueness and that, if you want to call it strangeness or whatever, is what got people hooked in,
Right.
because it had the perfect song. The song really showcased their voice. They
Mhm.
were dramatic. There was no inhibitions. They were, all that stuff. And right now, unfortunately, and I think American Idol is, again, not the great singers, like what's her name, Kelly Clarkson. I think is a great singer.
Mhm.
What's the other guys? Ruben Studdard, a great singer. He won. I think. I think he won the second American
Yeah.
Idol. And then the one that was with him that he became a political guy. I forgot his name. But he had a really good voice as well. So there's all these ideas. It reminds me of Christian singing.
Mm.
When you listen to the big super churches, the
Yeah.
mega churches and stuff, and
Mhm.
those singers that are out there. I'm not talking about Baptist church. I'm not talking about Aretha Franklin
Right.
style, the
Right. Right.
Black Baptist church. Those are amazing singers too. I'm talking about, you know, Anglo-Saxon
Like
mega
the what's
churches.
that group?
Joel Osteen,
The Gaithers, I think they're called. The
yeah,
yeah.
like
They're
Joel
yeah,
Osteen's,
Joel. Yeah. Yeah.
those guys that sing in there. There's a certain way of singing. They have great voices that kind of sound the same,
Yes.
and maybe in that world they're uniquely and we don't know that because we don't listen to them. But when I hear them, I just think I know exactly what that is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
It's interesting.
Christian music is really good. Have you
It's
listened?
very
It's
good.
they're
Very good.
writing and they're but they're and obviously they're writing is
We listen
spiritual,
to it.
but
Yeah.
their way they put the songs together,
They're very, very good.
it's more old school the way
Yeah.
they used to do it.
Yeah.
So when I
Yeah.
listen to this hooks and those where they're going, I'm like, oh, that's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. There are a lot of Christian singers, I guess Eric Church is probably one of the popular ones. And but there's also here in Nashville, there's a lot of that,
Right.
and there's also country Christian, there's hip hop Christian, there's rock Christian, there's alternative Christian,
Right.
there's Christian everything of a style of music. And the hip hop guy that I remember was Bizzle. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but like as good as anybody,
Really.
as good as anybody that's ever done it. incredible. Same thing with the rock bands. Like I think probably Creed
Creed,
got a
yeah.
little bit of a flack for that at some point, and the lead singer kind of had his own challenges. But I know they're back now, and they're better. They're bigger than ever.
Hmm.
Creed is bigger than ever because I think people are, young people just like the music.
Yeah.
I think what else is can't remember. There's another artist that I can't remember now, but um again, all those, and this is not knocking those things, but all these are songs crafted, put together, and put out in the format that we all understand.
Right.
And I'm talking about breaking the format.
Hmm.
I'm talking about Stairway to Heaven, where there's no drum fill until like 7 minutes into the song or something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
talking about uh Journey.
Hmm. Yes.
What's that song? Just a small town.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know, living in
Living
a
in a
lonely
lonely
world.
world.
Yeah, I mean, there is actually there's in the beginning there's nothing,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then it goes dun, 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 Steve Smith,
Yep.
and then it goes, oh, and then it goes in. I mean, the audacity to do that, and for a record company to be like, oh, that's cool, let's put it out.
Right.
It's a big deal today. What is somebody gonna say? No, we got to start that early. We got to catch the audience within the first
Right.
5 seconds. They got to be
Yes.
hooked in. We got to hook them in.
That is it's funny that
They
that
kill
is
it. They're killing
that is
it.
that is the creed of everything today.
Mhm.
That is the creed of everything in music, in media, everything. Because why? Because the concept is the attention span.
Yeah,
If you lose the person in the first 5 seconds of the thing, you're done. They're
you're
gone.
done. You're done. And that's part of and that's why I think film is also a difficult thing because we've watched I guess films are a little bit different because it depends on the type of genre that they are. But we watch films that from the moment that they start, they're incredible, right? There's a lot of action packed and stuff like that. But then there are films that are slow going that kind of build up and become legendary films. You could think of Terms of Endearment, which is just a conversation. On Golden Pond and all those melodrama films from the 80s and 90s
Mhm.
that were very, very slow are
Right.
very difficult for anybody to make today.
Well, that's the thing, and I remember when I mentioned there was an article on that. That I think it was the Atlantic, was it that talked about that film students now can't even get to these films anymore, and that because what's happening is
Their attention span.
their attention just doesn't. So what a lot of what a lot of professors are doing in these film schools now is not even playing the entire movie. They're actually playing clips and sections of the movie because these film students' attention is just not there.
Yeah. See, that's tragic.
It is.
That's
It
tragic
is.
because the
'Cause
whole thing about like you look at like The Godfather, for instance. I've talked
That's
about
exactly what I was
that
gonna say.
a million
Yeah.
times. The Godfather, there is no. I mean, there's a couple of there's some killings, obviously, because it's basically a mob movie. But
Right.
there's so much in that film, and I watch. I belong to a channel that actually does a lot of breakdowns of scenes, and they'll talk about why this scene occurred and what happened and why was Michael having this conversation the way he was. And one of the scenes that they broke down that was kind of like, a kind of an adventurous, not adventurous, but in today's world, not adventurous at all. But
Right.
back then is when, when Mo Green, when he goes to see Mo Green in Las Vegas, and then Fredo opens the door and then these dancing girls and all this music, and Michael is like, he's like, where's Mo Green? He's like, oh yeah, he's on his way. He's running a little bit late. He's like, okay, get rid of everybody. I'm here for a meeting for one day. And then Fredo's face kind of like, you can hear all right, guys, everybody go, get out. He throws everybody out. So there's all these breakdowns of power struggles that happen within that scene when Mo Green comes in and he's like, "Hey, Michael, how are you?" All right, he's all confident and stuff. And then Michael is like, "Yeah, enough to buy you out." And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, right." He goes, "Yeah, my family wants to buy you out." He goes, "No, you don't buy me out. I buy you out." And then the tension starts in that scene.
Right. Right.
Well, you can't just watch that scene without knowing why Michael arrived to that moment. You got to watch the whole film,
Yes.
and it's like slowing down. If I was teaching a film school, I think one of the things that I would do is like, okay, everyone, you need to your phones need to be off for 1 month while you take this class, or for 2 months, whatever the semester is. You
Right.
don't use your phone
Right.
for any social media,
Right.
for nothing. You call if you have to call somebody, obviously, but you don't use it. And obviously you have to go through the honor system on that. But
Yeah.
you say no social media, don't go to YouTube, don't watch anything. When we're here, we're only here to focus on film. We're
Right.
gonna watch this whole film. Godfather is 2 or 3 hours long. We're gonna watch it, and then we're gonna watch part 2, which is another 3, and we'll even throw in part 3, which was rough, but we'll watch it just to kind of close the trilogy, and then get them to chill, man.
Yeah.
Get them to chill, because this is why we're losing these great films. There was a film, Neil Simon, for instance, right? He's a great writer, comedy writer for the most part. But I remember when he told a story. Well, it was his book. I read his book, and in his book, he's talking about he rented a little tiny office above the Carnegie Deli, which, if anybody knows in New York, the Carnegie Deli, very, very famous deli, and all the who's who of everybody used to go to this place before there were names. And so he got this little tiny office, and he would go in there every day, and he would write, and he would write, and he would write. And then one day he finished this thing, and he brought it down, and he brought it to a publisher. He finally got a meeting with the publisher. He's sitting down, and the publisher got the book, wouldn't read it for a while. Then he finally went to go see him again and kind of pestering him. He said, "All right, let me read it." And he went inside, and Neil Simon stays outside.
Mhm.
And the guy is reading it inside, and Neil hears. He's laughing.
Right.
So it's a comedy. So Neil is happy. So he's like, he took the time. He came out and he brought Neil in, and he said, "This is really, really funny. It's completely unorganized, though. You're writing really funny pieces, but it's not flowing into an arc of a. Why don't we work on this, and let's put this together, and you see what this was? Someone who took that time to help Neil Simon, one of the greatest playwrights of our country ever, to hone his skills, knowing that he had the ability there. This is not something that we can do today. Right. I don't see anybody. Maybe in the Hollywood system there are people that would do that, but man, an unknown guy going to a publishing house and then having that play go on Broadway and all the stuff that he had. It's not something that people can do.
Yeah.
Right now,
That's right.
So it's the development part that I think is really the most key factor that was diminished. Developing, like, here's a great singer. I'm doing that right now, right? I'm kind of old school. I'm not really old school. I just see the value of it.
Mm-hmm.
If artists were successful, here's the thing. The things that are successful in today's world that I see they're successful, I use. Why wouldn't I? Right? Why wouldn't I? George and I we use StreamYard. It works. It's a technology thing. It's brand new, right? Or brand new, whatever. We've been on it for like 7 years. I use Canva. I go on YouTube to watch videos. I use social media for the business and stuff. I use these things because they work.
Mm-hmm.
The music industry, based on my experience from listening to things today, doesn't work the way it worked back then.
Right.
So I go back. It's like the film industry. Well, what did work? Well, what worked was the studio system.
Mm-hmm.
Studio system, right? There was MGM, there was Paramount, and Columbia, and all these. Well, not Columbia was music, but there was basically MGM, Paramount, right?
Right.
And they would sign the artist, and give them a contract, pay them whatever, $150 a week to come in, and they would get acting lessons and dancing lessons and singing lessons and all this other stuff. And then they would put them into a film and see if they kick in.
Right.
Now, I'm
Right.
sure, again, I've talked about this before also, but I'm sure in the past there were other dark things that occurred. I don't know what occurred. That's not what I'm talking about here. But there was a system, and that system generated Casablanca. It generated The Wizard of Oz, the Philadelphia Story,
Right.
Citizen Kane. The list goes on and on of films that all these film schools are looking at those films till this day.
Yes.
And The Godfather, all the way to like probably the mid to late 90s, right? Probably early 2000s was when things started going a little bit different, right? I think probably the last great creative off the wall filmmaker was probably Tarantino, I think, in my opinion. And then a couple of other guys that are creative, like Chris Nolan is brilliant. He's a filmmaker, loves film. David Lynch, odd guy, odd films, really made you think and be like, whoa, that kind of stuff. I love it. And then things kind of shifted. So you go back and you look at when things were going well and what were they doing back then? Well, for film, it was the studio system. In the music industry, it was development.
Right.
It was development. You think that the Supremes came in, Diana Ross and the Supremes came in completely polished? No, Gordy basically had his space, and he's like, no, I'm gonna. Oh, who's that guy? Marvin Gaye. Oh, okay, who's that? Smokey Robinson. Oh yeah, and then let's all get in here and let's start making some music. There was development. There was refinement.
Right.
There was making sure, like the Beatles. You think that the Beatles, George Martin was just like, all right, guys, just get up there. No, you guys are gonna dress like this.
Yes.
Your hair is gonna be like this. You're going to. This is, I love what you guys are doing. They were polished and they were good listeners. They listened to him, and what happened? Obviously, the rest is history. So I think that development part was the successful part. So if you take what's successful and bring it to what we currently have now, and try to bring it forward and adding the technology and all the other cool stuff that we have at our fingertips today, I think you can build something now. That's why what I was mentioning was that I have an artist. She's an incredible singer. She's beautiful. She's super talented. She's very coachable. And I'm working with her to develop her,
Right.
And
Right.
she's very willing. We have a whole thing that we're launching tomorrow, and it's exciting stuff. But why? Because I think it's different. It's
Right.
just different, and it's not really different revolutionary. It's just that it hasn't been done in a long time,
Right.
and that's what I think made that time of life so wonderful.
Well, I think that when you really look at it, kind of the 30,000-foot view of these things, right? And technology has been, in my opinion, the blessing and the curse at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, because again, everything to me starts to go downhill in the 2000s
Mhm.
when you start seeing the technology. Why? Because
It's
now,
streaming.
because streaming, but it's not only the streaming. It's the again, go back to the kids that are growing up in the late 90s and 2000s and into all these 2000s, attention span starts to change, right?
Right.
So now everything is instant. Now, these kids, like my daughter, doesn't know anything that she cannot get instantly with a push of a button, right? She pushes a button, something shows up. She
Yep.
pushes a button, she can watch anything in the entire world, right? She doesn't know of a time where that wasn't a thing, where
Right.
you and I grew up, right? So now what happens? So now everybody's trying to conform to the industries. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the industries, but part of it is the industry is also trying to conform to the attention span of the generation.
Correct.
Okay. So now you don't have, just like the movies, right? Now you can't watch a long movie. You got to get right to the point. There's no such thing anymore as, we were talking about this, as the trailer, right? The
Mhm.
trailer is 2 seconds and it's gone. Sometimes if you blink, you'll miss it, right? It's not there anymore, right? Because now it's going to be on streaming now. You'll be able to see it for the rest of your life, but whereas back then, Okay. Back then, you had the development, you had all this, you had the time. So now the technology is great in terms of productivity, because just like you said, we're using this
You use
technology.
it.
We're using this, right? We're using social media for marketing. You're using Canva, you're using all these things, because that stuff makes you do some things 10 times as fast.
Right.
But at the same time, in terms of the creativity,
Yeah.
right, and the development, you've lost that
Yeah.
because that has gotten swallowed up in this whole mess that we
Yeah.
call this generation of instant.
Yeah. And
You
it's the
know,
commerce.
yes,
It's the commerce that the platforms demand.
right,
Where Facebook is free, not because Facebook is so wonderful that they want to give it free to everyone. Facebook is free. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of conspiracies, but Facebook is free because they do sell stuff to us.
right. Well, they
All the
do. That's
platforms
that's
sell
known.
stuff. They're sales tools for the companies, for
Right,
these big conglomerate, and they're marketing tools for smaller companies that use that tool
mhm,
to target an audience that they want to sell something to.
right,
Great, fine. So the idea that these platforms that you would take your creative thing and put them onto these platforms is stupid.
mm,
It's stupid. It's not there for you.
right,
It's not there to sell you. It's there to sell the system. Is there to sell the conglomerate, the big giant massive of humans, to sell them things.
correct,
It's not there so I can use it so then I can sell my artist.
right,
Yeah, I can promote my stuff on it, but I gotta pay,
yeah,
and
sure,
that's another income source. So
right,
they're there for that. So how do they do that? Well, they controlled all information. Remember, in the 90s, everybody was saying it's the information era. Everybody
hmm
was talking about it was an age of information, age of information. Everybody was saying, oh, no, they're not gonna crack my information. All of a sudden, idiots. Of course, they got all our information.
right,
So now the other day, I'm talking to someone about, I don't even remember what it was I was talking about. It was like shoes or something, whatever, a brand. There they are.
there it is, pops right
The
up, right,
brand of the shoes that I
yes,
was just talking
yes,
about is
yes,
an ad right there. They're just there for that. So if you can understand that piece of it and not think that that is the reason why you can't succeed. You see what I'm saying? Like George and I do these shows, nobody watches, we don't care. A lot of people watch, awesome. It's the same difference
hmm
for us, because we're not looking at this as the thing that's going to get. I'm looking at the creativity part. I'm looking at what I'm working on when I'm not here. This
right,
is a communication. This
yes,
is a connection. This is so when people Google George wellness or anything, this pops up and a bunch of other stuff pops up. That's why we do these things, right?
yeah, hmm
So the mindset that you have to have is that, okay, I'm going to develop this artist. We're going to write good songs.
hmm
Then we're going to record good music. And then we're going to present this artist.
right,
That's it.
yeah,
And then hopefully people will like it.
yeah,
You get played on radio, you can get played on social media, you can do a music video, put it on YouTube, you can bump that with some dollars and get the YouTube thing. There's that part of it is already done. That part of it is already done. This is why I'm frustrated about some of the new bands, or the lack of new bands that create something that makes me go, whoa, I have no idea where they're going.
hmm
I'm really, really blown away by this right now. I don't know where they're going. I'm, odd signatures and, jazz, you know, I mean, when you listen to like Sting, it's kind of like jazz pop rock.
yeah,
It's like, I don't know anyone doing that right now.
right,
It's like, it's just not happening. Um, same thing with Steely Dan and any of these bands that have that type of thing. That's what I'm saying. So if you can find that group and then just think to yourself, okay, well, we're not going to put a video out and it's going to go viral. I mean, that's always a possibility whenever you're doing anything. Fine, it's there. That's not what you rely on. There's
Right.
so many bands and artists right now that are just trying to go viral.
Hmm.
And I'm saying just focus on the art.
Yes.
Just do the art. If you just focus on that and you record it and you put it out, then at least you could say you're an artist because you're creating the art and you're not now a business, a marketer.
Hmm.
You can hire people for that.
Right.
People can do all that. So that to me is where the disconnect between what was to what is the fact that artists now are not just creating anymore. They're creating with the purpose of using these tools because these tools are going to do it for them
Right.
in some weird way. You know what I mean? And it's like
Well, they become a slave to it now.
they're completely
And that's the big thing. They become a slave to social media. They become, because they see this one. Oh, this
yeah.
one's making $1 million being on Instagram or on TikTok and all this nonsense. And
And don't get me wrong, you need to be on them because
yeah,
unfortunately, you gotta you're it's just that's just the way it is right now. It's like these are it's sort of like saying back, like, and I've talked about this before, like the printing press back in hundreds of years ago, where the printing press came out, and then if you were putting ads out, awesome. But if you're a company that goes like, that printing press, I'm not going to put any ads on there. Well, you're going to disappear.
right,
So you got to be somewhere where people can find you.
right,
And now with
correct.
AI and everything, just have a site where people can find you, and then get to work. That's
Right.
it.
Right,
That's it.
exactly. I mean, listen,
You don't
there are
need all the other stuff.
there are people who are successful just using SEO now, SEO marketing
SEO
for their
is awesome.
website, just
That's
for
it. Just get people to go on your site and
exactly.
then provide value on your site,
Right.
provide entertainment if that's what you do.
Yep.
Just provide the thing, but just have people go to your site.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, yeah, go to my Instagram. Well, they're going to go to your Instagram. Are you going to get that follow? Are you going to get that email address? Are you going to get that contact? Are you going to have that person that you can reach out to later on? Not really. It's like Spotify. You go listen to Spotify, go on Spotify, and listen to my songs. Well, what if you suddenly, what if one of your songs goes viral on TikTok and everybody goes to your Spotify and you get 1 million hits on Spotify? How many followers do you have now? How many followers can you control from
Right.
Spotify? None.
Right.
None.
Right.
Not one. And right now controlling people that like you, or at least having them that you can actually engage with them, that's a major thing right now.
Yeah.
Another thing is, I heard Gary Vee talk about this a couple of days ago, where he said the new commodity is experiences, real life experiences,
Hmm.
documented.
Right.
Not a fabricated video. Matter of fact, they're even saying like even a raw, video shot in the house with low lighting but good sound that you actually just talking about something is even better than a real polished video. Why? Because AI can polish anything up so cleanly
Correct.
that there's
Correct.
nothing special about it.
Right.
So you see a really clean video, there's nothing special about that. AI can do that in 10 seconds. So who cares? But this rough video of me walking to my car, getting in my car and putting it in and having a real conversation, a talking head kind of conversation about a subject,
Right.
and having a niche that people will like is a very, very specific thing. And that's becoming much more the key that people are looking for. And more people are finding audiences based on creating experiences away from online, because there's a difference, right? It's people will say, well, it's almost like creating stuff for online. I say you have to change the viewpoint.
Correct.
You have to change the viewpoint. And it reminds me of like George and I. Okay, back in the day, let's put ourselves back in the day of music years. If there was social media when you and I were playing, what would we do? Pretty much, we would have social media on during our rehearsals,
Hmm.
right? We would have that
Right.
during our shows. We would
Right.
have social media and stuff like that. But then George and I would probably, and I know George, would probably set the camera up and we'd probably just start talking about Star Trek and a new thing that came out on
Yeah.
Star Trek. Or we'll start talking about Bob Ross or
Right.
the Frugal Gourmet, or we'll just start talking about stuff, and that would be our real authentic create
Yeah.
that's happening out here. We'd go to the park, we play basketball, we go we work out, we go to the gym, we work out, we go play pitching in, we play that, and we'd have our cameras just follow us around during that whole time. That would be the difference between what we're talking about. We wouldn't like sit there and do what we're doing right now.
Right.
This is a very clean thing. We have a format. There's a set. George has a nice setting behind it. I got my little guitar in the back and some nice paintings, a fireplace. And we have the lighting. We're all in this little. This is clean, and I mean this is actually as clean as we can get it for right now for what we have.
Right.
It's cleaner than this.
Yeah.
But when you see cleaner than this, it's sort of like, well, that's the Tonight Show.
Right.
That's,
it's interesting, and it kind of, I was just thinking about it as we were talking about attention and we were talking about, clean as far as visuals and things like that, right? Gary Null, right?
What a perfect example.
Who's a guy that, okay, I've been following this guy for, over 30 years in terms of, whatever, but he's been doing what he's been doing for over 60 years. Okay. He's the health guru and blah, blah, blah. Right. So now he puts out some videos on YouTube, right? And it's him sitting there just off the cuff, right? Talking about a concept, right? If you look at his video, if it's at 720, as far as the actual visual, it doesn't even look like it because it's almost like cloudy. No, it's like he's like at 480 or maybe between 480 and 720. Okay. Cloudy, but for an hour, I am riveted to what he's saying. Yeah. Okay. I don't care what it looks like. You know why? Because number one, my attention span is to what he's saying. So I have the attention span where I can sit there for an hour.
You like the content.
Correct. I can sit there for an hour and I can listen to this guy talk about concepts, blowing me away for the entire hour. And he's just talking off the cuff. He doesn't even have a script, right? But number two, it's, if you would compare it to even what we're doing right now, it's not even close because you can't even see, like he's a little bit blurry, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a crap. He's like, here's the information.
Yeah.
And you're going to, he's not worried about that.
Clean is over.
Yes.
Really, really clean, polish is over. I mean, first of all, let's look at The Godfather that we just talked about.
Right.
That film has moments in it that pretty much everybody's blurry.
Yeah.
Very, very soft.
Right.
Very, very soft, and it's brilliant. Why? Because it's paintings. It's moving pictures in a way that brings you along for this ride, and it's mesmerizing, and I think that the content is really what's driving people right now, but it's also how that content is presented.
Yes.
Like George and I are presenting this content in a cleaner state. We do this every Sunday night, but during the week, George has you kind of do a talking head.
Yeah, I do.
Thing, you know what I mean? And then me, I'm usually in my car talking smack about my back or something. But that stuff, sometimes I'll put up a simple photo or something or anything, and it gets attention because it is a raw piece of something in my actual life that's real, and it's not. I didn't clean it. I didn't put it through AI. I didn't edit anything. This show right here is not edited. We don't edit anything. This is what you see right now is what you get.
Yep.
We're not going back to clean up any audio. I think George does a little bit on the audio stuff sometimes, but we're not really necessarily doing anything other than like just doing it. And I think that's just the new commodity is experiences.
Yeah.
People are fed up with the clean, how clean things look. They're not being fooled by them anymore, and they don't necessarily care. That's the key thing. Is like they don't care enough to click on that. You know, they
Yeah.
want to see somebody just say something outrageous that's
Right.
going to get them interested
That's what it
in,
is.
yeah, you know, and
That's what
saying
it is.
something. And then, you know, for a while it's like, okay, well, maybe political. So, nah, it's not political. Political, that's boring. You know, I'm talking about like what we were talking about right now. Am I saying that artists today are bad? No. Am I saying that they're not as good as back then? Yes.
Yes.
I don't have to like, if somebody, and maybe there's brilliant artists that we don't know,
Right.
but you know what? There were brilliant artists that we didn't know back then that were
Mhm.
also, you know, I mean, I was listening to, you know, Johnny Costa. You ever heard of Johnny Costa?
No.
So he was the piano player for Mr. Rogers.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, the
Okay.
beginning,
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
you know, that he played that every single time different, and that every single entrance that Mr. Rogers did on that show for the 30 years that it was on was live, played right there by the band while he walked into the show.
Really? I didn't
Not
know
recorded,
that.
never. And every single version that he did was slightly different than the last. Every single one. So if they did 2,000
Interesting.
shows, every single show was different, you know.
Wow, I didn't
And
know that.
so yeah, so I got interested in his music. I was like, let me hear that. This guy is like, he passed one of the greatest pianists that ever lived. I could not
Wow.
believe how good this dude was.
Wow.
And it blew my mind, you know. Is he a household name? No, he played
No.
for Mr. Rogers. The whole band played for Mr. Rogers, and they were all brilliant musicians, you know. And Mr. Rogers was, you know, we should do a show on Mr. Rogers one day.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers would have on brilliant musicians, like he had on Marcellus. He had on Wynton Marcellus,
Oh,
like
Wynton
when
Marsalis.
he was
Okay.
really, really young. I
Mhm.
think he was like 21 maybe years old, and he
Wow.
had him on, and they played, and he talked about his dad, and he talked about his music and all that, and then he played a little bit with the band and stuff. And Mr. Rogers was an accomplished jazz pianist. He wrote all these songs. So these songs
Mm.
that, another thing I was gonna say about that, talking about Mr. Rogers, if you listen to his songs, the compositions, I mean, they're children's songs, you'd
Right.
think,
Right.
but they're very complex. It's sort of like Rush music.
Okay.
You know, Rush music is rock music. You hear it, but when you hear it and you understand what's happening there, there's like time signatures
Yeah,
that
it's all over the place. You're like,
they're like 7-Eleven, 9/11, whatever time signatures I don't even understand on things that make you sound like it, or make it sound that it's actually
yeah.
like in 4/4. You know,
Right.
well, the same thing with Mr. Rogers music, children's
Interesting.
songs, but very composed and very jazz oriented. All of them, every single one. It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the. I mean, if you listen to all that stuff, it's just brilliant, you know.
Wow.
So my point is that maybe those artists are out there right now to create.
Yeah.
Not maybe. I know they're out
They
there right
are,
now creating incredible music. You know, my thing is the pop music, the stuff that's out there right now, that's on radio, cannot touch what was in radio in, like, I'll give a year, 19, I don't know, give me a year, 1986.
Mhm.
You know,
Agreed.
1986,
Agreed.
87. We're talking Phil Collins,
Oh,
Van Halen, Hall
yes.
and Oates, Billy Joel. You know, the Stones were always in there every decade
Yeah.
since whatever. All that stuff that was going on during that time period. You know, the stuff that's on top radio today, just kind of, and you can go follow Rick Beato, and he'll break that down more. You know, he'll be more articulate about why it's not musically and stuff like that. And some of the people that he's even interviewed, he interviewed Sting. And
Yes, he
Sting,
did.
and they talked about that.
Yeah.
And they talked about how there's no bridge. You know, there's no bridge anymore. The bridge.
Have you seen The Bridge?
Yeah, the bridge. There's no bridge. Yeah, take it to the bridge. What was that? They don't know where they're taking anything to. Yeah, there's no bridge. It's just not a thing anymore. And the bridge was a song within a song. You know, like
Yeah.
Sting was talking about in that interview, where he says, you know, the bridge is sort of a resolution,
Yes.
sort of like an answer to what the problem was.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I have a situation, I have a conflict, I have there's a journey that I'm on that's really bumpy right now for me, and that it's giving me a little bit of this friction, you know.
Mhm.
And here's here's my solution. It's the bridge. The bridge has my solution.
That's
You know,
right.
listen to Billy Joel's bridges.
Oh,
You know, Sting's bridges. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I mean, you can go on and on. You know, the Eagles and all these guys, just brilliant bridges that open up and just make you think, ah, man. Paul Simon.
Oh, pulse. Yes,
You know, the
yes.
brilliant writing of Paul Simon and stuff. Incredible stuff. You know, not as good as Aftershock, the song, but what? That was a song I wrote called Aftershock. Anyway,
John, listen, John was a brilliant songwriter, and I mean, but Aftershock was one of the, what was it, Aftershock, and the other one was what?
High Risk.
High Risk, wasn't High Risk the name
Oh,
of the
that was the
band?
name of the band.
Then there was
She's Gone.
She's Gone. She's Gone.
There's a Clapton song called "She's Gone Now."
That actually that's
Maybe that's
amazing
where I
song.
got that idea from.
Yeah, but that's where, listen, that's where it all started actually. And
I wrote like, I would say I wrote two songs that I listened to and I go, okay, those are pretty good songs. I don't think they're bad songs. One was Thinking,
right, yes.
and the other one was Call Me.
Call Me was a good, Call Me was very good too. And I
Those
think
are
we
the only
actually
ones
did
I mean, there was other stuff that I remember.
but yeah, but the other, you also
Girl, I
wrote,
like your booty. Girl, I like your booty. Well, that was one of my hits. You know, that was huge in a small town in Africa. Girl, I like your booty. Girl, I like your booty. Oh my God. All right, well, we've gone past here as always.
Yeah.
I love these conversations, everyone. You know, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. There's a lot of stuff happening right now that I think is wonderful in the world. I know if you watch the media and stuff and the news is there for one reason only, and that's to get you to watch so you can buy their Tide, you know, and you can buy their drugs, whatever they're peddling and stuff, garbage. That's why it's generally there.
weight loss drugs.
And weight loss, it's weight loss, fabric softener,
Yeah.
fast food joints,
Yes.
you know, and cell phone service.
True.
Those are like the major things that are out there, you know, and every single one of those poisonous to you. I mean, think about it. Every single one.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I'm adding one and then, you know, and then Christian values. You know, no, nothing. Everything is just horrible, kills you. They're out to just destroy you no matter what it is. You know, I tell my kids all the time, you know, when we're out shopping and stuff and they want to buy something like some kind of cookies, whatever, and I grab my phone because I'm going to get the app that scans the barcode
to see if it's good. Yeah.
and it tells me if it's Bobby approved or if it's, you know, I have another app that does the same thing. And they're like, oh. I scan it and I basically tell them, I'm like, look, we're being targeted just the way we were just talking about movies and stuff and the music and all that stuff. We're just being targeted. All the social media platforms, we're being targeted. They want to sell us stuff. There's nothing wrong with selling us stuff. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, some of the stuff kills you. You know, and then, you know, and we have everything else that's going. So this is why we you know, we do this show to kind of like talk about the good things that are happening. There are good things happening in the world. There are a lot of great musicians happening, you know, out there in the world, and we want to bring them out. We want to show them, and this is my little contribution to try to put that out there. And maybe in 100 years, our videos will be seen, and they'll be like, hey, you know, those two guys, they had a point. You know, they had a point. They were saying something that was decent. Anyway, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you all very much. George, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for tuning in. My show, Monday through Friday this week, I'm going to be off, but I will be having a show every single day. One of the reruns. As a matter of fact, I put one of our shows together. I think I put two of our shows. I think I put Oba Babatunde's show,
Yeah.
and I put one of our Star Trek show, I think, up there also. The Inner Light, which I thought was a great episode. And see if that
Careful
didn't
it doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, I know. Well, here's the thing. In case you're watching on these platforms, none of those episodes are going to be on these platforms that you're watching this now. I'm trying something new. I'm putting it. If you're in Bayonne, New Jersey, it's on your Bayonne page. I have thousands of followers on there that still message me. It's going to be on Twitch, and it's going to be on X.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we're going to be on 3 completely different platforms for this week for the morning show, and for George's. We have 2 episodes, me and George, which should be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and we will be back. Is next Sunday anything that it's what's coming up? There's nothing coming up, right?
No.
We had the hour change, right?
Hour change, yep. So
we had that last night, that useless thing, and it's another show. See, this is the part of the show where we could take a break, play a music video of something, play a 2-minute, use the bathroom, get some water, refill my coffee cup, come back, and then do another hour on something completely different. Because this is what they do, where they're long enough, and it gives the algorithms will be like, these guys are not going away. You know what I mean? Because that's what I hear, like on some of these platforms, when you're on for like 2 hours, the numbers go whoosh.
Yeah.
I saw a friend of mine the other day. She was on for 2 hours, and I was like, man, she's been on for 2 hours. And I was just scrolling by. I looked to see what she had on. She had like 60,000 on her.
Wow, that's like Bongino numbers.
I know, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Yeah. So it can happen, but I know that a lot of people say that it has so maybe in the future, maybe in the future, maybe one day we start even earlier. Start at 6. We do 6 to 8 for me, for you 7 to 9.
7 to 9. Wow.
And we just have and then again in the middle of the thing, we can show a video, keep everything going, use the restroom, get another drink, and then come back and then do another hour.
Hey,
you try that. You want to try that next week?
Why not?
You want to try that next week?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? I'll do 6 to 9. Oh no, wait, 6. That's 3 hours.
All right, John. I think.
Didn't like Howard Stern do 4 hours every? I mean, isn't morning radio shows still to this day they do 4 hours?
Yeah.
I know they have breaks where they're playing music, and then they have commercials.
They have a lot of commercials, right?
Like that. But yeah, that's like a normal thing, 4 hours. And I even on when I watch on Rumble and stuff, some of these guys are on there for hours.
Oh yeah,
hours, and sometimes they stay on while new hosts come in.
Yeah, well, even like what's his name, Alex Jones used to do like 2 or 3 hours. Steve Bannon does like 3 hours. Charlie Kirk
Alex
used to
Jones doing 3 hours is impressive because he's insane.
Yeah, well, there's that.
How do you keep that level of insanity up for that long? Because I used to watch Glenn Beck, and Glenn has his insanity, but he also chills out for a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he chills and stuff like that, but then he kind of goes a little bit berserk. But no, Alex Jones was just nuts from day one.
You know what I'm realizing? And I know we were supposed to be leaving, but that the health guys out there, there's some of the doctors who are all on health now are going like more political now, the health people now.
Really?
Which like, remember Dr. Drew? He was all about health and stuff. Now he's gotten more political. What's her name?
But
Jillian.
He's working with the.
He's working with.
Brought him in, right?
No, he's not working with them. I mean,
I know the president appointed him something.
Dr. Drew.
Dr. Drew. Wait, Dr. Drew? No, I'm thinking of. Wait, what's the other doctor that was on TV?
You think of Dr. Oz?
Dr. Oz. He was.
Dr. Oz is head of Medicare, Medicaid.
Correct.
No, yeah. Dr. Drew, the one with the glasses.
No, I do know him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also. Yeah, and Jillian Michaels, who was the fitness guru now, she's got political. Why? Because their numbers, they're seeing, I got to do political news now, and they
That's a
see their
trap,
number.
man.
Yeah, it is a trap because now they don't talk about health. I mean, they still do some health stuff every now and then, but it's more like news now.
Now, is it a separate? Because sometimes a lot of these guys have like 2 or 3 shows.
No, it's what they do now.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's like I was so disappointed. I'm like, I don't know.
That is-
It's just
that is-
something I was bothering me.
but
Anyway,
we can do this also when we're.
that's right.
What is this here?
Put some
well,
good music.
Yeah, we put some music. We'll do. We'll go like this.
She came in, legs really high, beautiful.
Had legs from here to Newark and back.
The kind of legs that you could suck on for a day. Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Is this loud where you can hear? Let me see what's a good level. How's this level? Is it better?
Yeah.
Alright.
Have yourself a
Wait. Oh,
merry
you did the wrong thing.
little Christmas.
Hold on. This is the level.
I love you.
How's this level?
That's good. That's
Like-
nice.
That's good. All right.
That's
hold on.
like candlelight.
Yeah.
That's like Sinatra in the bar with a cigarette and a martini.
Yeah. Never thought you would walk into my life. That day. That day. Cannon. All right. All right, folks. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week. We'll see. We might actually do an extended version. Maybe we'll do something in the middle. Maybe you can do like an ad or something, wellness resource or something.
Yes, I can do that.
Something in the middle and do that, and then we'll start again. We'll do two almost like 2 shows. The first show we'll talk about one thing. Second show we'll talk about mayonnaise. Friends, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, this is our 4th time trying to leave. We will see you all next week. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other because we're all we got. We love you all. And as always,